Think of this, Jonathan. We've got 8 cities. We've got 4 in Poland. We've got 4 in Ukraine. Most of the ones in Poland, we've got good services to. We've something like 9 services from Ryanair to Poland. But the one that most people go to, Krakow, isn't on this particular schedule. Instead, we have Gdansk and Poznan and Wrocław. Now, the thing about it is that we will have good services for the independent traveller into cities like that. The real issue is that when pressure comes on and sports fans have a big sign around their neck saying "gouge me" everywhere I go around the world, those services will immediately fill and will be stuck trying to get into these cities and find beds in them. And the Ukraine is a different story altogether. We've no scheduled services there. We've pretty good links.
At all? There's nothing going to Ukraine from Ireland?
Yeah, what will happen is the charters will step in. The charters step in to fill the gaps in the scheduled services. Now, long ago, charters just charged whatever they could get. They would rip the sports fan off royally. What has taken the edge off that in the last 10, 15 years is the resilience of the Irish fan in finding all sorts of ways, roundabout ways to get in, and it's done 2 things. It's given people with less money a more awkward but an effective way of getting to places, but it's also pushed down the prices of the direct charter services. It's done us a great service. I think Cyprus a couple of years ago, the last time we lost heavily in a European match, was one of the occasions where the charters put on the services and the prices were a little bit high, so everybody found other ways to go. Ways into the Ukraine, everyone will think immediately of Frankfurt, but bear in mind Munich, which is Lufthansa's other hub, which is good services into Ukraine, and also Malef, the great service through Budapest, and Turkish Airlines, very good service to Istanbul. But I suspect a lot of people will be travelling on the charters because they will be priced accordingly.
And indeed,
our big problem when we get out there is the distances between the centres.
And that's what I was going to talk about, because just reading some reports this morning, there's pretty grave concern amongst UEFA officials that a lot of the infrastructure that should be in place by the actual start of the tournament, it's very, very slow, and there's talk of sleepless nights. I mean, you'll remember what happened with the Commonwealth Games in India when things weren't finished. Is there a risk that might happen again?
Yeah, this story crops up the whole time. Even the Commonwealth Games, which, there was a little bit of sneering at India by particularly the British, the London-based media are very, very good at that. It wasn't quite as dramatic as it turned out. In the run-up to South Africa, there were probably bigger concerns, but it all got together. They got the terrific rail links from the airport to Joburg. It's a stunning rail service. I've used it since the World Cup myself. What will happen is that the new terminals in the 2 new airports that have been done will be ready by about February, March. There are concerns about some of the roads. I think people are jumping. I think there's a case of very often in our business, and I'm guilty of it myself, Jonathan, we look at what the running story in the run-up to a big event is. Will it be finished? And since Montreal 1976 and that particular catastrophe, they were still building the infrastructure 2 years after the Olympics had passed. We've always looked at this. It happened with Athens. It happened less so with Germany, but it is happening now that everybody's looking at the infrastructure saying it won't be ready. I suspect it will, but do not expect too much. Okay. Remember, the rail services in Eastern Europe bear no resemblance to what we got when we went to Austria, Switzerland, or to Germany. Ireland didn't qualify for those 2 tournaments, but the amazing thing, Jonathan, is we sent more fans to the World Cup in Germany than most of the countries who did. We love to travel, we love our sport, and we love to go and watch it. Now, we won't get the train services that we would have been used to. It's not advisable. The road services are very good, and the airports will all be ready, but the distances can be huge.
And that's the problem, is that if Joxer decides that he is going to go to Gdansk and the next match is somewhere else...
If Joxer goes to Gdansk or Donetsk, it's going to be 5 days getting there. Donetsk is 1,800 kilometres from Gdansk, and that's the axis there. That if you were to draw the line between the 2 distant points, that really doesn't happen. They're not going to be in the same group, but both of them are staging quarterfinals. So you could actually end up in a situation where you have to go from Gdansk over to Donetsk, and that's an 1,800-kilometre drive in the high-ace van with the pair of tights around the fan belt and the vodka well stocked in case you run out of diesel. Or you could go in the opposite direction. There would be the Kharkiv to Gdansk, 1,600 kilometre. That's a colossal journey as well. And there are 5 days between those two matches. Most of the 5 days will be taken up travelling. What will happen is people will be flown, and the thing about it is, Jonathan, is you can bring aircraft into a big event like the Euro 2012 Championship. You can't bring in hotel beds.
Let's talk about hotels, because as you mentioned earlier on, the possibility for gouging here is massive. They see the Irish coming in thinking
it's Galway race week for these guys.
Exactly. So what's going to happen? I mean, a bed that this week could cost you next to nothing, and it could be hundreds of euro by the time the tournament comes round.
You can get a night in Donetsk for €28 at the moment.
Wow.
I can imagine you can put 200 in front of that when we come to the championship.
But look, at the bottom line is, if people are thinking about next summer, and God knows we need something to look forward to, all going well tomorrow night, we'll be in this tournament, but in general, how much is it going to cost?
What brings down the price is competition. Warsaw will have more than 20,000 beds, so nobody's going to get fleeced that much in Warsaw. But the whole of the Ukraine has fewer beds than the Republic of Ireland has, and it's a huge, huge country. It's got something like, they can't tell me, but at World Travel Market last week they were saying there are 50,000 beds ready for fans. That's nothing. 50,000 hotel beds, that's nothing for a tournament that expects to attract 400,000 people from around the world. Depends on what countries qualify, but we are big travellers for a small country. We could be bringing 12,000 fans into Donetsk, and there, from my reckoning, about 2,500 hotel beds there. Now they're saying there's loads of B&B, all of that stuff around, there are campsites, all of that, but I can see immense pressure. If you get two big following countries, and our next door neighbours, England would be one of them, the French, the Germans, people like that who bring big, and some of the smaller countries bring huge numbers of fans as well. It will mean that people will be ripped off outrageously for hotel beds. What kept the pressure off, for instance, Italia 90, where it was probably Italia 90 was the first time, Jonathan, that we discovered the day trip. Fly everybody in and fly them back out again on the same day. A lot of people, one of our best attended World Cup matches of all time was that quarter-final against Italy in Rome and Genoa against Romania. And a lot of people went in, flew from Dublin and back again because the hotel beds prices were so high, it was cheaper to run a flight out and back. What I suspect will happen is you'll see lots of fans stationed at another part of Poland, especially Poland because they've more beds, flying into Donetsk and back out again for particular matches if we're there. The groups to avoid are Group B and Group D. When the draw is made in December the 2nd, they're the ones to watch. You're based out in the Ukraine. If you're in A or in C, you're in really good hands. You're in the Polish hands. Okay. We know these people. We live with them. We love them. And the Polish community is one of the most vibrant and one of the most exciting. It's been good for Ireland.
It has,
and
certainly.
They're all our cousins. Well, we've been at their weddings out there, and they're our friends. So everybody knows someone in Poland at this stage. The real problem is Ukraine.
I tell you what, I'm still a little superstitious. I know that we have 4 away goals in our back pocket going into Lansdowne Road tomorrow night. I don't even want to talk about
Jonathan,
A, B, C or D.
do you remember the first half of that match against Russia when they put 3 over the top and scored 3? We were 3-0 down at half time. Can you imagine anything like that happening tomorrow and the jitters that would set in?
I'll take A, B, C or D at this point. I still don't care where we'll be as long as we're there. Owen Corry, editor of Travel Extra. Thank you, Owen.